You're listening to the Marriage Clinic Podcast, a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Our purpose is to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. Now, your host, Joshua Margaret.
Hello. It's 2023. Wow. We made it, and we're grateful to God that we made it into this new year. It's His mercy and His grace definitely that has brought us this far. I'm excited to be back on the Marriage Clinic podcast. I have missed you all over the period. I've missed you all over the period where we took a break. And believe it or not, we are back with season 2 of the Marriage Clinic podcast. I want to say a big thank you to all those who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure that we can put out this Marriage Clinic podcast to you. I need to acknowledge Baraka, who has been tremendously helpful in making sure we put this out. We have Selom, we have Harrison, we have Queenly, we have my lovely wife Alisa. All these people have put in the efforts to make sure that we can bring you the Marriage Clinic podcast. The podcast is blowing up. I mean, it's blowing up everywhere, especially on TikTok. I mean, I'm amazed at the number of people that are watching the videos. Some of the videos have over 200,000 views, and that's a big deal. That is a big deal. So we are glad to the TikTok family. Hey, we appreciate you. If you are not following me on TikTok, please go look for Dr. Joshua Mogri to follow me on TikTok. So, this is the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. Podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. And this year is going to be lit. It is going to be lit. If I'm using the popular term, it's going to be lit. What are we going to do? The first thing you need to remember is that the relationship failures, or the relationship problems that you had in 2022, it's time to let go of it. I sincerely hope relationship-wise 2022 was a good year for you. But even if it wasn't, if it's that you maybe the relationship didn't work out, or there were problems in the relationship or problems in the marriage, a new year is a new opportunity for us to do new things. Okay? So what we are going to do is that we are going to forget about the losses that we made last year. It's written, it says that one thing I do, forgetting about the past, I press on towards my future and the goal. So what we are going to do is that let's leave all the things that didn't work out, the things that could be better, the things that happened to be problems. Let's put all of that aside. And now let's focus on this year. I want to help you. Uncle Josh, type in the chat, Uncle Josh. Uncle Josh wants to help you have a new year. I want to help you have a new year and a better year and a more progressive year relationally and so on. So the team, we've put together a lot of beautiful topics for the next 40 plus episodes that we are going to have. And we are going to discuss issues that are going to help you grow this year. They are going to help you be a better person this year. And you are definitely going to enjoy what we have. Now, we've mixed it up a little bit. It's a new year. We don't want to do things the old way. So this year is going to be a little bit more interesting. The format is going to be a little bit shorter, slightly shorter, so that you can have it in bite sizes. Then we're also going to pick very important topics. And then I'm going to do justice to these topics. Then we're going to have interviews. We're hoping to be able to have about 6 major interviews this year with people discussing the issues or the problems that we are talking about. One of the interviews I'm really looking forward to is the interview we are going to have about childlessness in marriage. When you do get married and you can't have children, how do you deal with it? And I'm going to talk to a couple of some couples that have gone through these problems. I'm going to talk to a couple that had to wait 10 years. I'm going to talk to one that had to wait 6 years. I'm going to talk to one that are still waiting, and they have been waiting for well over 20 years. So we'll talk about how to cope. So we're going to have interviews about very interesting topics, and Uncle Josh is going to host the right people who are going to give you the right kind of information that is going to make you enjoy it. So we're going to have interviews. First of all, we're going to have the topics at the top. We're going to have periodic interviews with experts and people who are going through stuff. Then we are bringing in the Ask Uncle Josh segment. Ask Uncle Josh segment. Anytime we put out a video, or you can always send a question directly to us via email. The email will be put on the screen. You can send an email to us with a question or a problem you are going through. The editorial team will go through, and then they will pick a particular question that we will be answering during the segment. So do you get it? So you either put in your question now, you could put in your major question, maybe a problem you're going through and you want me to directly address it, or you could send us an email. We'll look at the questions, and every week we will pick one or two questions, depending on the number of questions that come in. We'll pick 1 or 2 questions to deal with and help give insights. All right. Then this is the exciting news. We are switching to the Marriage Clinic roadshows in person. What's the roadshow about? We're doing this on campuses and churches and institutions that want to have us. So if you want us to come and run the marriage clinic in your school, send us a message to the same email we are sharing. Send us a message with the details of the people that we need to talk to, or talk to some of the leaders who can invite us. And once we are invited to your school, we will prepare. And please, for now, this is schools in Ghana. I don't want to get, for now, I don't want to get a university in Lesotho and South Africa and Nigeria saying, hey, come to our school for now. But someday we'll be able to come around all these places and deal with these issues. So we are starting the Marriage Clinic Roadshow, where we will go quarterly to every place that wants to have us and run in-person marriage clinics to get the word out there. So get the word out there that it is possible for your church, your school, your institution, your club to invite us. But please, terms and conditions apply. If you do invite us, we will have to schedule it. Remember that we will get a number of invites, but we'll work our way down the list and appear in your schools. All right. Then this year, some of the topics I'm going to be dealing with this year are, let me run you through a couple of them. Navigating long distance relationships. In fact, what I'm going to start with next week is setting relationship goals for a new year, or relationship goals for a new year. We've entered a new year. What are the things you need to do to make sure that your relationships are successful this year? So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to do the premarital one next week. Then the week after, I'm going to do the marital one. Then some other topics we're going to be looking at is how to navigate long distance relationships, which is a big one. We're going to do communication in marriage, managing expectations. I'm going to touch on these subjects: managing expectations in relationships. We will look at childlessness in marriage, how to deal with that. When your partner cheats, we couldn't exhaust that last year. We're going to do some more with that. Then dealing with cultural differences in relationships. Compromise, how to deal with the in-laws. the role of forgiveness in relationships, and so many others. So there's going to be a long list of topics that we are going to have. We're going to put out there, and we will tackle your relationship issues. And if there is a specific topic you want us to come to, right now in the chat, please type it in there. Just say, Uncle Josh, can you talk about this? Uncle Josh, can you talk about that? Put it in the chat and I will make time and talk about those issues to you. So I want to serve you better. In this year, I want to serve you better and to give you the information that you need to ensure that you succeed at what you do. Remember, this is the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, a podcast about relationships, marriage, and your personal development. So I'm going to be doing things also that are going to help you with your personal development, that you grow, that you become a better person. So that is what Marriage Clinic has to offer to you this year, and I am excited. Now, I promise you that we're going to have Ask Uncle Josh. So I'm starting big from the get-go. Here we have an interesting question that came from Bill Quiz. Bill Quiz on TikTok. She sent this question on TikTok. She said, so I'm in a relationship with a 40-year-old man who has one child, but he's divorced. So please, what can you advise? What advice can you give me? I'm 24 years old. So here she is. She says she's 24 years old. She's dating a man who is 40 years old, and he has a child. What advice can I give her? Well, the fact that you mentioned the age, Bilquis, the fact that you mentioned the age means that you are concerned. Because if my math is right, you are looking at a 16-year gap, which means that technically he could have been your daddy. Now, where there's such a large gap, now terms and conditions apply. Let me give this caveat. I've seen relationships where the age gap is 20 years and they've worked out. They are rare. They are rare. I attended a funeral recently where the man was 30 years older than the woman, and they had been married for over 45 years. So it does happen. Dating or going into a relationship and a marriage with a man who is significantly older than you presents a number of problems. One, you will not click on a lot of issues because he grew up in a different time. Simple thing. If you ask someone who was born between the 70s well into early 90s, if you ask them to do the symbol of a phone call, they do this. So you see people say, call me, because we used to hold phones like this. If you ask those who are 20 and below to show a sign of calling, they do this, because now they hold the phone, a smartphone, instead of call me. So that just shows the gap. So you're going to deal with a number of issues. One, you're going to deal with the fact that you won't be able to connect a lot of the time on a cerebral level. Two, he's already had a lot of experiences and gone through a divorce. Chances of a marriage working after a divorce significantly go down. You have a 50 to 60% chance of your marriage working when you are marrying for the first time. You have a 25% chance of your marriage working when you are marrying for the second time. And then you have a less than 10% chance that your marriage will work when you are marrying for the third time. So that presents that problem as well. Then there's the sexual problem. Women hit their sexual peak somewhere around the age of 30, most women, and men normally hit their peak somewhere in their 20s. So by the time a man is, for most men, 28, 29, they are having their best life, and then it begins to decline. So at the time that you are going to, in bed, you are going to want more, he would not be willing to give that much or not be able to give that much. That's why so many men are on aphrodisiacs and so on and so forth. Then there's the issue of care. If there's a 16-year gap, what it means is that while you are in the prime of your career, you're going to have to be caring for an older person. So there are a number of challenges that come with it. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. All I'm saying is think well before you go through it. The positives are that most likely he's more advanced and a bit more wealthy and can take care of you if you want to be the kind of person who is taken care of. I don't have too many details, but the advice I'll give you if you have made up your mind that you will remain in the relationship is that take your time, talk to the right people, do a lot of relationship counseling before you take a final decision to get married, and realize that the other woman and the child will always be a part of your lives. You will never get rid of them. So I hope I've helped you. If you have some further questions, send me some messages. We'll discuss it. This is the Marriage Clinic podcast. I'm glad to bring you the first episode of season 2. You need to be with us next week as we start discussing relationship goals for a new year. God bless you. Take good care of yourself and see you next week. Bye-bye.